So I am really excited about this segment. With me today is Paul Ranalli, superintendent of our cemetery here, Highland Cemetery. And this is a segment we've been thinking about doing for quite some time. Paul, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody who knows Paul, he is a fixture around town, and we have a real hidden jewel in Highland Cemetery. So first of all, Paul, how did you become the superintendent of the cemetery?
Well, it's interesting. I was with Public Works back in the 80s, and I left and went back into the private sector. And, you know, my background is construction, building, remodeling, road construction, you know. So I was in the, out in the construction industry through quite a bit of my life. And I guess Mark Ryan was looking for someone. One fellow was retiring, and he needed somebody that was more interested in the roadways, the buildings, and as well as the plantings of trees and shrubs, because the cemetery had been it had been some time before it was restored. Let's put it that way. And it's pretty exciting. There's 40 acres here. It's quite a lot here, and you can think about all the people that come and go from the cemetery, and sometimes there's a little brown spot on their grave, and sometimes the boys hit the flowers with the whackers, but all in all, we really work hard. The crew, fabulous crew I have here.
How many on it?
Six. We have a crew chief, Charlie Walsh, who's fantastic. We just hired on a fellow, Pete LaFleur from Franklin. He's an operator to go along with Mike Reynolds, who is also the senior operator, and as well as Freddie and Tony Scavato. And I know Dave Bragg, who we can't forget. Yeah. Of course, veteran. He did that veteran section's his. So, all in all, it takes that many people to get this thing accomplished.
So, a lot here. I think I read there's over 220,000 burials here. Yeah. Over 20,000 burials here. You do several hundred a year?
Yeah, we average around 200. It's been about 200 a year for a long time. It certainly, the 7 years I've been here.
And I think the other thing that folks don't realize is that this is a non-denominational cemetery, but you have different sections here, yes, which is really interesting, representing some different religions. Yes.
I mean, we do. We have I guess originally it was, we should have Patty Fanning here, Dr. Fanning, she'll give us the whole layout, but we have the Jewish section, which we just put the burning bush up, which came from the synagogue that was, I guess they had combined it with another one in Canton. So we took care of that, and it was exciting to do that in that section. That's the Jewish section, with the Protestant section right next to it, and the Catholic sections down in the back. But I don't think it really matters anymore. Everyone just kind of goes with where their families had the graves, and we're doing a lot of different denominations now, Lebanese and Nigerian and all different types. So the cemetery that's the way it was supposed to be. It was built that way, and it seems to be going that direction.
And you talked a little bit about the veterans. There's a whole veterans sector. There's a lot of veterans buried here.
There's a lot of veterans buried in graves. There's a veteran-free section. Now that section is just for that one person. You can't have your wife buried with you or anyone else. It's just one, and it's free to a veteran that indigent or whatever. But that's a very manicured section with flags flying all the time. We just want flags there, but sometimes it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. It is tough. And around, biggest day of the year here, is it Memorial Day? Is it Veterans Day?
It's Memorial Day.
It's
Memorial Day is, well, Mother's Day and Memorial Day are going hand in hand lately. I've found that out because that's when they usually come to the cemetery to, start to, get moving towards the summer plantings. But yeah, Mother's Day you got to watch out for too.
Okay, so you've got to make sure that you get ready for the traffic jam.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
plan ahead. So there's all sorts of. I mean, it's just beautiful here, Paul. And I keep talking about the hidden gem because many of us in town love to walk here. It's just a very serene place. A lot of different trees and plantings.
Yeah. We've planted well over 230 trees since I've been here. Arborvitaes, cherries, maples, all different, river birch. I could go on and on. And as well as what Mark Ryan is probably the one that really pushes to modernizing everything. I mean, he just, we're always trying to clean up different sections of the cemetery that have been, neglected for years. Just the way it was. We just try to, the equipment we have today is far greater than the equipment they had years ago, no doubt about it. And to get the correct people to operate is even better.
And then you have the challenges of the seasons. And, that.
Well, we were in jackets a couple of weeks ago, and we've already done one mowing, and we're trying to get through to the next and trimming, and it's tough. It's coming out of the winter is really difficult because you don't know what kind of winter you have. You're always trying to clean up, and I think it was back in February we had some weather where we could do some work outside, and then, as you know, March just killed us. But one thing that I've done as a superintendent, with Mark Ryan's approval always, is we do different projects in the winter, to keep the guys, these buildings, they need attention. This year we put in an extension of the office. Last year we did a stairway going up into the second floor to try and utilize space up there. Prior to that, the maintenance building, we painted the whole inside and tried to fix the doors that were broken and the device setups and things of that nature. But it's a process, and it's a learning process. It's something that is a culmination of everything I've done in my life, to be honest with you. So that's why I love the job so much. I love working for Mark Ryan and in the town of Norwood. I grew up here with seven kids in my family. And my father worked for the town, and my brothers and sisters all went to school here. So I was the only one that went over to the Blue Hills Regional. At that time, it was tough to go there, let me tell you. But the education I got out of there, and as you can see throughout the town in the different departments, how many kids went over to Blue Hills. So there was a great thing for the town of Norwood to have that ability for kids to learn a trade.
All right, so that would have been a great, we could have ended right there, but we're not going to, because we can't be talking about this beautiful place without talking about a couple of the buildings that are here. Most famous these days is St. Gabriel's, is the chapel. Also, you mentioned your office building, and there's even a workshop, a shop there. Yeah. That's kind of it has an interesting story about it. Can you just talk a second about some of the buildings here?
Sure. The chapel, when I first came here, I'll never forget walking into the chapel. I hadn't been in there for a while. I mean, I had so many things going on, just trying to get my feet on the ground. And when I walked in, I was kind of taken back because it just seemed so wrong the way the building, they let it go the way they did. And why, how, money, I don't know. But Mark Ryan was the one that initiated even before I got here, which I never realized. And then when I got here, we kind of teamed up, and then Dr. Fanning got involved, and started moving forward historically with the Historical Society, and then getting, you know, prices to restore it, because what had happened was in this one of the storms, the roof had blown off, and that really got the wheels rolling, so that people would realize that this building is in tough shape. I mean, it was not. We're not just talking. We're talking about, you know, it's starting to the structure is starting to come apart, literally come apart. Where, I don't know. You know, you want to wait another year, you want to wait 2 years before you restore it. But I don't know if it has that much time left. But we're working on that, and that's a gem. I mean, St. Gabriel Chapel is it's a beautiful, beautiful Gothic building that to restore it is one thing. To build it a new one would be just out of reach. And the maintenance building, we try and you know, we take down this and put up that for space. You know, utilizing space the best we possibly can. That's a great building, but it's dated, and we hope to maybe put an addition on the back of that. And those are things that we can do in-house, you know?
Exactly.
You know, and that's a huge, huge savings to the town. And not only that, but the guys, you know, we keep working.
Right.
You know?
Keeps them going.
Yeah, and this office building is beautiful, but again, the bathrooms and things like that are a little old, and but we keep them, you know, we keep them going.
And there's a Bamber connection, right? On, I think
Bamber put the addition on. I think it was in, Jesus, I'm terrible with dates. But yes, Mr. Bamber, and the Bambers were a proud carpentry building company in Norwood, I think, at one time. I remember down off of Walpole Street. And I think they were also politically connected to the town. Yeah. But yeah, he put that on there. I mean, everything that has been done here through the past, even the superintendents before me, they all did. This place is, they felt the same way I did, I'm sure. You know, it's 40 acres here now, and there's a lot to cover. And it's taken time to develop all of it in the, you know, the proper manner.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It's truly, I know it's a labor of love for you, and this is part of your town and the history of your town. So thank you for everything you do.
Well, thank you very much. As always, nice to see you, Jerry.
The Women's Community Committee is a volunteer, nonprofit organization that's been operating a thrift store since 1927. The thrift shop is open on Monday and Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for donations only. Our retail hours are Wednesday nights from 6 to 8, Thursdays from 9:30 to 3, and Saturdays from 9:30 to 12:30. We accept donations at that time as well. You can friend us on Facebook to keep up to date on our current merchandise and sales. All proceeds are used to provide funds to support worthy programs, services, and charities in Norwood. Help extend a helping hand by donating and shopping at the WCC Thrift Shop. Thank you. You never know what you'll find.
Okay, so I'm here today with somebody who's a true friend of Norwood, and that is our town's Public Health Department Director, Sigalle Reiss. Hi, Sigalle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, Sigalle, one of the things that we love to do is we like to find out a little bit about our folks here in town that are in the front lines, and you certainly are, you and your team. But, you know, I've never asked you this. How did you ever come to Norwood and come into your job?
Yeah, it's actually, thanks for asking. It's a funny story because I saw the position opening, and my predecessor, Phyllis, was really a legend in public health around the state. So I had just moved to Westwood, so I was right next door, and I was actually commuting down to Taunton. So I saw the job opening, and I kind of looked at it, and I was like, yeah, you know, no way I'm going to get that job. But I just finished my master's degree in public health, and a good friend of mine was the director up in Arlington. And she called me up and she said, well, you're applying for the Norwood job, aren't you? And I said, I don't know, I can't apply for that job. And she said, you have to give it a shot. So she really convinced me, and every time I see Christina, I tell her that she's the reason why I got the job in Norwood. So I ended up applying, obviously, and getting it, and very thankful to be here.
Well, and we are too. One of the things that you've done is you've really transformed the department since you've been here. Why don't you talk about some of the top things that the department is doing, and then we're going to talk about some exciting news that's happening real time.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things is really, I feel like local public health has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. From what we used to do to what we do now is drastically different. Everything from after 9/11, starting the emergency preparedness programs that we do. We're charged with coming up with plans to inoculate or prophylactics everybody in Norwood if there is an anthrax exposure or some other disease exposure, man-made or caused by humans or the environment. So we've done a lot of planning on that over the years. But really, our function has gone more from regulatory public health, which we still do, which is the inspections and the enforcing regulations, to really looking at the issues in the community that affect your overall health. So in order to add a lot of those services, my job has really morphed into a lot of grant seeking, which I do enjoy because it allows me to add new programs that really change behavior and improve health in the community. And then one of the big grants we were very fortunate to get is the Drug-Free Communities Grant, which I've spoken a lot about on the show, but it's really an accomplishment and an achievement for the community. And I have to say, people have been very complimentary to me, but really the reason why we got the grant is because we have the right people at the table, including NPA, as a community partner in the program, and we have representation from the different sectors of the community, really wanting to make an impact and change in behavior to improve health in Norwood.
And we love the partnership as well, and we're pretty excited about the video element to this whole partnership, and PSAs also. I think there's going to be a bit of a contest.
Yeah, so one of the great things about the grant, and I always say in public health, it's the people that do the work, so we need staff to do the work. So this grant, the major component of it is to hire a program director. So Aubrey Sigalle is our new hire, growing the department through grants. And one of her ideas was to do a PSA contest with students. So it's multifaceted in that it involves youth, because youth is a key component to our coalition, because those are the people that we're trying to affect with the prevention message, and then also getting messages out to the community. So it hits lots of targets in our efforts. So we're excited to be working on that.
All right, so now we're going to get back to you, okay, because I know you love talking about what you do. How did you get into this field? I don't know, I think that's another good story. I had, like most people, I had no idea what public health was. I was an anthropology major in my undergraduate. So I wanted to be Jane Goodall or Diane Fossey out there studying chimps and apes. But as I went through my undergraduate degree learning about anthropology and sociology, I really liked learning about communities and what makes them tick and how they function and the reasons why we're structured the way we are and things like that. And then I also had an interest in health. So it was a sort of combination of why are communities the way they are and why do diseases move through societies the way they do. Whether we're talking about heart disease or the HIV epidemic or any type of disease, mental health, any of those diseases, how are they affected by the community and the environment that the people are in? So I was looking around and again, I really didn't know what it was. And I was talking to a friend who had recently started working in Taunton where I was before, and she said, well, that's public health. And I said, well, what is public health? And I looked into it and ended up applying to schools to get my master's in public health, but then ended up as an inspector in Taunton and actually delayed getting my master's, which I am thankful for because I was able to get that field experience. And then later I went to BU School of Public Health at night while I was working in Taunton. And that was a fun time. To work full-time and go to school at night, it was a lot of work, but definitely worth it. I enjoyed it. Well, and you obviously do enjoy school, because we were talking a little bit before we started that you're continuing to pursue. We should talk a little bit about that as well.
Sure. It's a great program. It's a partnership between Mass Municipal Association and Suffolk University. And what it is, it's a partnership to allow municipal employees like myself to take a certificate in public administration. So I'm taking the course now. It's every Friday. which is a lot of work again. But I do like learning. I guess that is a good point. I like learning, but I'm not sure I like doing the reading and the writing that's involved with it. I like going to the lectures and hearing different ideas and thinking about things in different ways.
Oh, that's great. Now, still live in Westwood?
Yes.
A little bit about what you do outside of keeping our town healthy.
Yeah, so besides working and going to school, doesn't leave much time for anything else, but I do have 2 great kids that are 8 and 5, and they go to the Halen Elementary School in Westwood. So I'm in Islington, so it's a very short commute to get to work, which I enjoy. And my husband and I have been in Westwood for, almost 15 years.
Wow, you don't use a passport to get in here every day or anything?
No, they let me in and out every day. I'm fortunate for that.
All right, so let's go back a little bit, and the other thing that's happened in public health is the main concerns have really changed, right? So you know this better than anyone. Opioid epidemic, flu is a big issue this year too, and I don't ever remember it being. It seems to be a lot more. The strain seems to be tougher this time, and I know at my place of work, same thing. We have all sorts of preventative measures being taken. Let's talk a little bit about flu, and even though that it's seasonal, it's not, because it's timely about what's going on there.
Yeah, well, and I feel like we say this every year, but nobody ever listens to us. That flu is a serious illness, and to get the vaccine is very important to protect you. This year is particularly bad, and it's probably multifaceted. We say the science of medicine is never perfect. There's a lot we don't know, but the flu virus changes every year, and that's why we have to get a flu shot every year. There are 4 strains in the vaccine that we and most providers, the quadrivalent vaccine, give. This year was extreme, and that is associated with the fact that the vaccine wasn't exactly perfectly matched to the strains that were circulating. And every Friday, the state puts out a report where we look at the percentages of influenza-like illness, we call it. So people that probably have the flu that go to the doctor. And they've been doubled what they were in the last 2 years, so the percentages. So it is definitely an extreme flu year. And unfortunately, every year we see 30 to 60,000 deaths across the country from flu. So it's a serious illness, and some people think it's the cold, and it's not a big deal, or I've never gotten it before, or I don't want to get the shot because it makes me sick, which is untrue. So there's a lot of misinformation about the flu, but I feel like, unfortunately, in bad years people pay attention, but even in a good year, there are many deaths associated from the flu. We do offer the flu shot vaccine. That's a big program of ours that Karen Wing, our public health nurse, works on, and the whole team contributes to it. But we offer the flu shots. It's usually October through to November. We do a big clinic in October, open to the public. We usually do everybody 14 and older. And then we continue to offer vaccination until we run out of vaccine. We do actually purchase the vaccine as a town. So I always say where it used to be supplied to us by the state, just because of the changes up there and really funding, they no longer really supply adult vaccines anymore. To talk about the change in what we do in service to the community, adult vaccines are very minimal and really just the flu at this point. So we purchase it independently, and then the reason why we ask for your health insurance cards is because we do bill for it. So we get that money, and then it reimburses us for the cost, and we pay for next year's vaccine. So I would say it's helping the town out if you get the flu vaccine from the health department as opposed to the other widely available locations like the pharmacies and doctors.
Not to be named.
Yeah. But with that, I also say the idea is we want to get as many people vaccinated as possible. So from a public health standpoint, the more locations where people can get vaccine is good, but wait till we run out of vaccine, then go to the pharmacy.
The other thing that before we end, some people don't know about the public health department is also the whole restaurant inspection and how your staff is involved in that. Can you give just a quick synopsis of the involvement? And I think it's important that people know that, because it
definitely
makes you feel safe when you actually go eat at a restaurant. Yeah,
foodborne illness is a serious thing, and what we do, and all about public health is all about prevention. So whether we're talking either the opioid epidemic or flu or foodborne illness, we're out there in the community trying to prevent disease. And just on a little side note, we always say you don't really see public health until we aren't doing our job, because then that's when disease comes. It's like prevention of anything. You can't see what you've prevented. So we have a great sanitarian or food inspector, Angelo DeLuca, who's fabulous. So he's out there every day, all day. Monday through Friday, inspecting NORAD's restaurants, which we have a lot of. So any food establishment, any establishment or business that sells anything consumable, so even just bottled water, we just want to make sure that everything is safe and sanitary. I always, every once in a while, I go out with them to, make sure my own skills are still there, because I started as an inspector too, and he amazes me in the field all the time. He's putting his probe thermometers and things, and logging things, and I mean, there's a lot of science in it. Watching temperatures. You test the chemicals to make sure that they're the proper concentration to sanitize, but not to poison. So. He's like an octopus in a restaurant, testing everything and checking everything. It's really amazing. And he's been with us for about 4 or 5 years now, so he's a great addition to the team.
Well, maybe we'll have to get a segment with him as well.
I definitely think so.
Well, Sigalle, thank you so much. In between school, work, family, you actually were able to sandwich us in a little bit.
Of course.
We really appreciate it, and we appreciate everything you and your team are doing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.